about the second part of the Lotus Sutra, which is chapter 8 through 14. Chapter 8 is called 500 Disciples Receiving Prediction. Buddha's 500 Arhat disciples, they receive prediction. There are two kinds of predictions. One is called individual prediction. Second part is the common predictions for everybody. So in this chapter, the 500 disciples receive common predictions. Purnamatriyani Putra, he was the foremost in expanding the Dharma. Also, Kandinya, he was the first disciple to become an Arhat. These are the two that had individual predictions. In chapter 8, one of the 7 parables of the Lotus Sutra, the jewel in the rope. There was a poor man, he went to his rich relative's house for a dinner. He had a lavish feast, he got drunk and fell asleep. When he was knocked out, his rich relative saw a priceless jewel inside his pocket. The poor person woke up, he didn't know he had a priceless jewel in his pocket. He kept going on with his life, a beggar, looking for food, living a life of hardship. A few years later, the two meet again, and the rich relative said, "How come you're still poor and begging for food? I gave you a priceless jewel in your pocket. You should exchange it for what you need. You'll be rich and live a prosperous life." So what is this parable telling us? Of course, this rich relative, he's a Buddha that taught us the one Buddha vehicle. We all have the Buddha nature, and we're living in the 3 rounds of samsara, begging for food for existence, when we have this priceless jewel in our pocket. So now we need to bring out our priceless jewel and exchange it for goods. Use your Buddha nature to live an awakened life. That's what the Lotus Sutra is teaching us. Chapter 9 is giving more predictions to those who study and beyond study. So study is the first level, arhatship, the second level, the third level. The 4th level arhat is the one that doesn't need to study anymore. So they're called the disciples that are beyond study. So 2,000 Shravakas, they all receive predictions. Rahula, Buddha's son, and Ananda, Buddha's cousin, they finally realized from Buddha's parables in the sutra that they do have the Buddha nature and they are supposed to be Buddha. So now they're truly awakened. So Buddha gave them prediction based on their realization. So they received individual predictions, and 2,000 Shravakas, they all received common predictions. In this chapter, everybody will become a Buddha. It's just sooner or later when you come to the awakening that you're not this physical body, but you are actually the Dharmakaya, one with the Buddha nature, going toward the way of the supreme path, the Enlightened Path. Chapter 10 is called the Master of the Dharma. We all should be masters of the Dharma, not just monks or great masters. If you learn the Lotus Sutra, uphold the Sutra, read the Sutra, recite the Sutra, expand the Sutra, which means teaching it to others, and you copy it, you write it out, that is all upholding this Lotus Sutra. So sooner or later, you will become a Dharma master. So you're already on your way to the supreme path, the Bodhisattva path. This chapter talks about the 3 rules of expanding the Lotus Sutra. Buddha gave us 3 special rules to live a perfect lotus life. This is not just to expand the sutra, but to reach spiritual awakening, enlightenment, by holding these 3 rules. Number 1 is to wear the Buddha's robe of gentleness and patience. 2 is to sit in Buddha's throne of emptiness. And 3 is to enter Buddha's room of great compassion. You just need these 3 things to reach Buddhahood. Number 1, wear the robe of patience and tolerance. In order to be a bodhisattva, you need to tolerate all slanders. People belittle you, criticize you, ridicule you. No matter what they say, you do not give rise to anger. It's not just to hold the anger inside, it's to have wisdom that all these situations are helping me to become enlightened. Don't hold any anger or resentment toward people that mistreat you. That is the way to reach Buddhahood. Number 2, we should sit in Buddha's throne of emptiness. Emptiness is not nothingness. Emptiness is understanding all life situations. Everything you see are only appearance, a condition arising that's impermanent and changing. You should not be attached to them. Emptiness is basically detachment. Detachment from a self, detachment from all things. When you have detachment, you're really liberated. You are free. If you don't dwell in emptiness, there's no way you can teach others this Buddhism. You haven't really experienced what do we mean by emptiness, the nature of all things. So the key is to dwell in stillness of emptiness, understanding who you really are, and not be caught up in the life situations, which are all illusory forms. Number 3, enter Buddha's room of great compassion. Great compassion is the ultimate middle way. Detached, yet be patient and tolerant, and have great compassion equally for all sentient beings. For people that hurt you, harm you, ridicule you, you still have great compassion. The Buddha says if you want to expound this Dharma, which also means you want to reach Buddhahood, you should follow these 3 rules. That's chapter 10. Now chapter 11 is the vision of the jewel Stupa, many jewel Tathagata. He made a vow, whenever there is a Buddha expounding the Lotus Sutra, I will emerge from the ground and suspend in the air to prove that the Lotus Sutra is real. So at this time, when Shakyamuni Buddha was alive, expounding the Lotus Sutra in the assembly, this many-jewel Buddha, he had a 7-jewel stupa that emerged from the ground and suspend in the air. He said, please expound the Lotus Sutra, basically to prove the realness of the one Buddha vehicle. If you want me to open the door to the stupa, and all the transformation body of Shakyamuni Buddha must come to this land. Then you can open the door and see me. Shakyamuni Buddha, he had to purify the Saha world 3 times, moving all the mundane sentient beings out of this place and put all the transformation body of the Buddha in the Saha world. All the transformation body of Shakyamuni Buddha gathered and the door of the stupa open. We see the many-jewel Buddha sitting inside, and he said to Shakyamuni Buddha, please come in and share my seat. So now Shakyamuni Buddha enters and sat in the same seat as the many-jewel Buddha. So if you can just imagine 2 Buddha sitting on the same throne. What does that mean? The one seat is called our Buddha nature. The 2 Buddha is everybody have their own cause and condition, their vows from the past. Shakyamuni Buddha have his vow, the many-jewel Buddha have his vow, the 2 Buddha come together, sat in this one seat. So that is a sight we never ever seen in any other sutra, just to prove that the Lotus Sutra is real and it's what the Shakyamuni Buddha have expounded to us. at his last 7 years. Chapter 12, Devadatta. Devadatta is Buddha's nemesis. In this chapter, it talks about two stories. One is the king who renounced his throne just to learn the Lotus Sutra. The king said, if anybody who can teach me the Lotus Sutra, I will renounce my royal position. I will be his slave to learn the Lotus Sutra. A sage, a seer came and said, I have the Lotus Sutra. If you do not disobey me and be my slave, I will expound it to you. So this king renounced his royal position and became a slave. He had to cook, he had to get water, he used his back as a bed for the seer. And the seer taught him the Lotus Sutra. So of course the seer is Devadatta. Buddha calls him my good spiritual advisor. Why? Because he's his nemesis, always abuse him. So this lifetime, even though he's teaching him the Lotus Sutra, he's still abusing him. Buddha doesn't mind the abuse because he's willing to sacrifice everything just to learn the Lotus Sutra. So we should learn from this king. The second story is, of course, my favorite story, the daughter of the Naga king. Jeshuri went to the Naga palace and taught Mahayana Buddhism. Over there, daughter of the Naga king, once she heard the Dharma, she says, I will expound the great Mahayana to save all sentient beings. But in the Lotus Assembly, Shariputra and all the Bodhisattva, they don't believe it. They said, Buddha have to go through eons of hardship and 3 great eons of cultivation to reach Buddhahood. How can you, an animal who's 8 years old, who is a woman, gonna be a Buddha? That's impossible. She shows up in the Lotus Sutra assembly and she said, I'm gonna give my jewel to Buddha. Buddha, accept my jewel. Is this done very fast? Shariputra said, yes. She said, watch me become a Buddha, even faster than this. So all of a sudden, she transformed into a man, stand on the lotus, went to the land of the south to become a Buddha. So what is telling us? When she gave the jewel, she let go of all her attachment of the south. Buddha accepted it. Right away, she transformed into a man and became a Buddha. A mundane, a woman, an animal, anybody. If you just have the bodhi mind, awaken to your true nature, immediately you are a Buddha. This is the certain perfect enlightenment. We call this the one Buddha vehicle. Expounded through these two stories in chapter 12. Chapter 13 is called Exportation to Maintain. We want to praise anybody who is expounding this Lotus Sutra. So in this chapter, all the nuns, including Buddha's aunt, Mahaprajapati, and also Yashodhara, Buddha's wife, before he became a monk, she also received individual prediction. And a lot of bodhisattvas, they all received prediction that they will reach Buddhahood. So this is a very good chapter to praise the Lotus Sutra. All the bodhisattvas made vows that we ourselves will expound the Lotus Sutra because Buddha is about to pass away, go to paranirvana. So Buddha is very worried that nobody will carry out this Dharma. Chapter 13, all the bodhisattvas, they made vows to expound and teach this Lotus Sutra forever. Lastly is chapter 14. It's about how to be a bodhisattva that is expounding the Lotus Sutra. It's called the happily dwelling conduct. In order to be a bodhisattva, upholding the Lotus Sutra, teaching the Lotus Sutra, you should have 4 kinds of peacefulness. Peacefulness in your bodily action, peacefulness in your speech, peacefulness in your mind, and peacefulness in your vows. To be a cultivator, you should have these 4 things. Basically, this is the Bodhisattva precepts. First of all, in your body, you should get away from things that will prevent you from learning the Lotus Sutra and teaching it. For example, we do not want to be with people or prosperity because there's a lot of fame and profit involved. That is not good for a cultivator, and you should get away from places of danger, places that can bring out your lust. And we also need to make sure that our speech is proper and peaceful. Do not slander others. Do not talk about the good or bad of any temple, any church, or any other teaching. Do not gossip about anybody's right and wrong. We only teach the Dharma and be as good as we can. Do not look down on anybody. Do not have foul speech. Our thoughts have to be pure and peaceful as well. No jealousy, no competition, no anger, no arrogance. Then you can teach the sutra. If your mind have these afflictions, then external events will cause you problem. If you don't talk about others, others will not talk bad about you. You need to guard yourself, guard your thoughts, guard your action, guard your speech, and have a peaceful life. So watch your mind, watch your thoughts closely. Lastly, a bodhisattva should have kindness and great compassion in your vows toward your Dharma friends, toward your family member, even though they still don't understand the great teaching or they do not want to know about it. Doesn't matter what kind of sect of Buddhism they're learning, we treat them equally with great kindness and great compassion. That is the Bodhisattva way. So this ends the second part, chapter 8 through chapter 14. So next time we will go over chapter 15 through chapter 21. So thank you so much for listening. I will see you in the next class. Amitabha.